And welcome back to the Midday Show. It's 420, some big news in crypto. We've got John Mackey back to do Quizzo. But first, Mark, you're going to break a story for us.
Well, this is by the best of our – there we go. By the best of what we can tell. There's a missing girl in Benton, which is over by Bloomsburg. And that she went missing Friday night. And she has, according to a relative's Facebook post, we think by the best of our knowledge that she's turned up in Florida. I guess the history, I don't know a lot of the history of the story, but I think she used to live in Florida and then she was up here. I think she was living with her grandmother by the way the article goes. But however, you should follow this and follow our site as we're digging, and I'm sure other news outlets are digging. But apparently she's 16 years old, and somehow she got a trip to Florida, and they said she just walked into a friend's house. So from missing from Friday night till today. So we think everything is good. That is unsubstantiated, but from what we can tell, it seems like she is fine.
All right. So again, go to NorthcentralPa.com to find out more. And I didn't know this. You were telling me some of the background story, some of how 420 was started. And I don't know, it's kind of neat. I didn't know any of this.
Well, I knew there was a story behind it, and then I'd heard the story once, and I got the story wrong, I guess, apparently. But the way it worked out, where does 420 come from? I thought it had to do with an area code, because with phones and but I was wrong.
Yeah.
Somewhere out in California, and this is the 50th anniversary of it. It was 1971 when it started. Apparently, somewhere in California, there were 5 friends who just kind of hung out, and there was this legend of an abandoned cannabis is the word that they keep using in the article. So a cannabis field that was abandoned by the grower, and he made a treasure map. So all these stoners, because this is 1971, this is right on the backside of the 60s. So all these stoners could go out and try to find this, this utopia of an abandoned cannabis field. So maybe it was all a joke. I don't know. And that makes it funny. But these 5 guys, because they were cool and they were teenagers and they were trying to be, they would have a meeting place to come over and go through and make the plans and where were they going to go look. And they decided that their meeting was going to be at 4:20 in the afternoon there was a Louis Pasteur statue at the school's campus.
Right.
So they would just tell each other at 4:20 Louis. And that meant and everybody knew what it meant. At 4:20, we're having a meeting and we're going to go find this pot of gold cannabis field. And after a while, 4:20 Louis they dropped the Louis part and they would just say like 4:20 and everybody knew what it meant. And then as time went on, they kept the lingo whenever it had anything to do with marijuana. It just 4:20 was the code and it didn't mean anything to anybody else because why would 4:20 associate with marijuana? So then like I think it was on the 20th anniversary, somebody did a story about it. But it really just in the crazy little small world, the reason this took off is because one of the 5 original buddies ended up being a roadie for the Grateful Dead.
Okay.
And that's where it goes.
That's fantastic. The treasure map part is great because you can only imagine, right? I mean, that in itself could be a movie.
I can imagine a couple, I was just going to say jerks, but it would be funny to be like, hey, you know what we should do? We should make a fake treasure map and watch all these people go out and try to find it. And
well, have you ever heard of I think it's snitch hunting up north. Have you heard about this?
Is it snipe?
Snipe. It's snipe hunting. Have you ever heard about this?
Yes.
Yeah. So for people who don't know, there's a bird in North Central and in the Northeast called the snipe. And basically everyone has different strategies. The way I was taught, the way that I was fooled is you take a pillowcase, you shine the flashlight in the bottom of the pillowcase, and you bang rocks together like faster, faster, faster. And then they run into the light, into the pillowcase, and then you catch them. So that was the way. But it sounds like something like that. Like they got together and tricked these people into going and doing something like that.
So there you go. So there's your history lesson for today. And I said to you, hey, well, I'll just look it up and I'll read through it because I know there's a cute little story to it. And it was 1971. So it's 50 years ago today that this whole 420 thing started. And there you go. And what are the odds that one of these 5 dudes ends up being – I think he was a roadie for the bass player. So I mean, when you're the Grateful Dead, I guess everybody's a roadies. I mean, they all have their groupies, so why wouldn't they have their individual roadies? But that's how it works.
No, you're right. What are the odds? Because otherwise it probably never would have.
Never catches on.
No. We've talked about this a lot on the show, and it just continues to keep going. Crypto changes are coming. I'm not sure where you want to go. Well, first, the news today, Venmo, for everybody who uses Venmo to exchange, we use it a ton. Somebody buys a beer, somebody picks up dinner, you Venmo the other half, you split the bill, all those good things. I actually pay my rent through Venmo right now.
Whoa. Hold on, let me cut you off.
Yeah, no.
How many times have I brought you lunch?
You've never asked me, ever.
That wasn't that. Okay, that's what I do with my kids. That would be a good that would be a good answer if the question was how many times did I ask you? My question is, how many times have I brought you lunch?
You bring me lunch probably twice a week. Is that a fair guess?
How many times have you Venmo'd me?
Well, what usually happens is after the second or third meal, I immediately go like, I have to buy the next meal. Like, you can't keep buying meals for me. So I immediately go into it's my turn to pay.
I just think it's interesting that with your friends, they buy you one beer and you Venmo them. But me, I bring you a whole cheesesteak and I get no Venmo.
I'm sorry. I do eventually pay for your meal. I'll be better about the Venmo.
You know what it is? This is ageism right here. This is what you think I'm too old to do Venmo. And I was until about 6 months ago when everyone made fun of me because I didn't have Venmo. And then I was like, all right, if you show me how to do it, I'll do it.
I'll be honest with you. I just assumed you didn't have Venmo.
This is a true story. This is what happened. When I wrote my book last fall and I started selling books, and people would be like, they want to buy one. I was like, well, I have some in my car. And they're like, do you Venmo? And at first I was like, what is that? And they're like, well, I don't have cash. I don't have a checkbook because who reads a checkbook anymore? You don't take credit cards. Can't you just Venmo? And after I'd like 3 people in a row say, do you Venmo? I was like, I should probably get this.
You probably need to get it. So the big news today for Venmo, they are officially accepting all types of cryptocurrency. They're going to add it to the platform so you can basically pay for things using crypto if people will accept it and vice versa. Last I looked, Venmo was over 70 million users. So this is a big win for crypto. Some of the debate on TV is you kind of hear the old talking heads talking about like, is it real? Is it here to stay? I would argue that when a platform like Venmo says we're going to accept all types of cryptocurrency with 70 million users, to me, that's a strong sign that it is here. Like, it's not forget it not going anywhere. The moment is now. Like, it's happening.
Well, the question becomes, what it depends what the government does. The government could declare it counterfeit. That's what they did with Confederate money. Like, if you try to use this, it's illegal. But how do they stop you and I if 70 million people are on this? Well, that's just with Venmo. Say there's a million people who use Dogecoin, and you use it and I use it, and I buy you lunch, and you're just like, how much do I owe you? $10? I'll give you 10 in Doge. And if between those million people, yeah, maybe I'll never be able to go into Walmart and use crypto, and maybe I'll never be able to go to Wise Markets, our wonderful sponsor, and use crypto. And I'm going to Wise Markets right after the show. But if there's this, if in society, if we can pass it back and forth, they're not gonna be able to stop that. So no. It's a much better organized barter system for the 21st century. So that's the question to me. What does government do? And you brought up a good direction where you think government should go and where they won't go.
Yeah. So this is Biden and his team just came out the other day, and they're creating essentially what is a task force, and they're going to try to figure out how to regulate this. And my first 2 thoughts were, one, I don't know if they really can, because if it was simple, I don't know if you need a task force. Like, I think you would just do it and you would start the paperwork and it would start. So I think just the fact that he's even putting together a task force says there are some challenges here that they're not really sure how to regulate this. The second thought was they're missing out on the pie. Like, their piece of the pie in this, it does not exist right now. And so if you're the US government, how do you get your slice of the pie? How do you regulate this? There are 2 questions that I think they're really going to struggle to answer. And the last thing that I said to you, it's the irony to me, and listen, I'm not claiming I should be president. I'm not claiming I know how to solve this. But the irony to me is they're going to put a ton of time. You could tell. They're going to put a ton of thought into how do we regulate this and how do we get our slice of the pie, when to me, where the energy should be going as a country and as a government is how do you create the digital dollar? So how do you move our currency from just being a fiat paper to actually becoming something that is digital and can be used in both manners? To me, that would be much smarter and much better time invested. Instead of just figuring out how to get your slice of the pie in this that's already happening, we could be the first country that truly had their currency in a digital format if we wanted to and put the time into it. I don't think we will, but that's where I would be heading. I think they're too far. Like, I think it's too late.
Well, of course we won't. And the reason that the government won't is because it's too progressive and it's too forward thinking. And that's just not how our government works. Like, it will be slow and behind. And you're right. Like, it's here to stay. How crypto looks 5 years from now, nobody knows. But it's not going to disappear. And if the government comes in and tries to make it disappear, they'll just figure out a way to go around the rules that the government has made to make it disappear. And in the digital age, they can't keep up. And that's one of the issues. The Joe Bidens of the world can't keep up with the digital stuff. So it would make perfect sense. And the problem is, I think, also because all these politicians just want to get reelected and they don't want to rock the boat too much.
Sure.
And they don't want to make it look like great change is coming. But great change is coming anyway, whether they hop on board or not.
Yes.
So that's the problem. But again, the other aspect, as we've talked about, because of the age of these politicians, do they care? Are they going to live long enough to see when crypto is dominant, when there is a digital dollar? Probably not. So what do they care?
The key word for me, key words, was task force. That just, for whatever reason, and maybe I'm reading into it too much, but for whatever reason, when they said that they were forming a task force, like, think of the things that you form a task force for. Like, you only form that when A, you don't know what to do, and B, when there's really not an obvious, like, full forward answer, and you've got to come up with something. So when they said task force, I was like, all right, they don't know really what's happening, and they're not sure how to get their slice of the pie right now.
I just think task force is a glorified, manly way of saying subcommittee. But subcommittee has no force in it. It has no it's just like, yeah, we have a subcommittee. They're going to look at, hey, Susie and Bobby and Shelly, can you guys work on this together? So I don't know. Anyway, be that as it may. Yeah, crypto is coming. The government will look at it from the wrong end, and that's what we do.
All right. Thank our sponsors real quick before we do Quizzo.
Well, we want to thank Wise Markets again. As I said, I'll be there in a little bit. And I want to thank Wise Markets again for sponsoring us and giving prizes that we have on the wheel. We've given some away. We'll give some more, and they'll be here with us for a while. But not only just to Wise Markets, but to our viewers. Our viewership has been going up and up, and it's better than we had ever expected. At least it's better than I expected. I don't know if Jeff might be, but and we see the numbers of how many people watch every day because it's digital and you can check that. Like I liked when I used to be on the radio because you had no idea how many people were listening. So now we can tell, and the numbers are just so much better than we thought. So we like to thank Wise Markets for helping us to get here. And we'd like to thank you guys for tuning in, and we're glad that you either find it entertaining or enlightening, or maybe you have no other better thing to do during lunch. Maybe we're just the best of a bunch of bad alternatives. But either way.
That was heartfelt. That was good.
Thank you.
That's good. All right, real quick, before John comes on, let's give our story, and then that way he becomes the defendant. Like, whenever you want to win a case, you always want to give first and then make the other person defend it. So I think we were 5 for 5 last week.
We were 5 for 5. And I'll give you an example. One of the answers, it was a real name of a bank robber. And we were kicking through, and we're like, oh, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Well, if you look at that, just from historical aspect, Butch Cassidy sounds like a real name. It sounds like a dude name. Now, I'm sure his birth certificate didn't say Butch, but it was probably like, Robert Jr., and he just went by Butch. But his name, Butch Cassidy's a real name. The Sundance Kid is totally a nickname. So we had to come up with a nickname. They gave a real name for an outlaw that had a nickname. We went with the Sundance Kid. The real answer was Butch Cassidy. So we think we got it right. We took credit. John says that you were close, but it's not right enough. I don't think we should be punished because Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid are too stupid to know how nicknames work. So Sundance Kid should have been. So we'll take credit for that. John says we won't. So we're here to fight.
Okay. So here's what we'll do. We'll bring him on again. Bear with us here as I get the screen situated. John, how you doing today?
Wonderful. How are you guys?
We're good. We're excited. We're feeling very confident because we feel like we went 5 for 5. But you say we would not have been prize winners had we had been out and about at the bar.
Well, I mean, there's two things at play here. The first is the answer was Butch Cassidy. If you guys wrote down the Sundance Kid on a Quizzo form and handed it in to me, say at the Bullfrog, I wouldn't have given you credit for it.
Okay.
Number two is Butch Cassidy's real name. If you were paying attention last week, he was born Robert Leroy Parker. So Butch Cassidy was a nickname, an alter ego, whatever you want to call it. So, week 1, 2 for 5. Week 2, 4 for 5. That's not terrible. I mean, 4 for 5 is pretty good. You guys did really well last week, but not 5 for 5. Sorry.
He's so calm as he explains it. It's hard. Like I want to argue, but he's so calm about it that I feel stupid arguing.
Well, because he's been doing this for a long time, and he's used to telling people, no, you're wrong and you're stupid. This very much comes.
Yeah.
Like people come in thinking they're smart, and they go out having a nice meal and a couple beverages and realizing they're not as smart as they thought they were.
All right, John, hit us with it.
So I'm assuming, Wise Markets, you guys, primary sponsor. You guys know where Wise Markets was founded, right?
Sunbury.
Yes.
Sunbury, Pennsylvania, my hometown. That's where I grew up. Kind of a funny story. One of the owners of Wise Markets, they used to live not too far from my house. And in the summertime, my friends and I would sneak onto their tennis court and screw around until they kicked us out. And we would kind of go back and forth like that most of the summer. But anyway, I love Wise Markets. Yeah.
Great. We just lost our sponsorship over a 30-year-old trespassing charge from John Mack. That's great. So here, before we start, I know we've gone over this, but we'll do it at the end too. Tell us, where are you tonight? Where are you tomorrow? Give us your plug.
Yeah, so we're at the Bullfrog tonight. New start time of 8:30. Tomorrow is a busy day for Quizzo. We at the Rusty Rail in Mifflinburg at 6:30, and then we come back. I will be at the Brickyard at 9 o'clock. My other host, Jasmine, will be at Kimball's, which is down by Penn College, at 8 o'clock. So lots of choices in Williamsport tomorrow. And then Thursday, pretty excited, we start back up at a long-time location in Lewisburg, the Town Tavern. So I'm excited about that. So, yeah, things are slowly but surely starting back up.
So here we go, Jeff. So if we wanted to go to Quizzo tomorrow night, do you want to go somewhere where we could have John read us the questions or someone named Jasmine read us the questions? Just which do you think would present a more enjoyable experience?
I think my girlfriend's watching, so I'm really excited for John to give us some really hard questions to mull over.
That is a good answer.
Thank you.
And I apologize, I didn't watch the whole show yesterday. Have we revealed where Jeff is? I don't want to give away his location.
No, don't give away my location. I'm in a sandy bunker somewhere.
Okay, because that where you are kind of ties into my first trivia question.
Okay.
But I also don't want to give away where you are. So we will say somewhere down where Jeff is in that region. In 1961, I don't know if you guys are aware of this, a B-52 bomber broke up in midair and actually dropped 2 4-megaton nuclear bombs over the coastal United States, one of which was extremely close to detonating for not its last fail-safe and its parachute getting stuck in a tree, which slowed its descent. So I didn't know if you're aware of that or not. You can look it up. Pretty interesting story.
I did not know that. That is
fascinating. That leads me into my first question. And that is, what is the two-word term the U.S. military uses for an accidental event that involves a nuclear weapon? And it's kind of scary that they actually have a term for this, because you shouldn't be having accidents or losing these kind of things.
But Jeff, I'm looking at you. I go ahead, Jeff. Do you have anything?
I know the answer, and I know the answer for an I guess it's not an obscure reason, but I know the answer by coincidence. I do not know I want to act smart, but it's pure coincidence that I know.
It doesn't matter. Give it to us.
The answer is in a Vince Flynn novel that I read once at the beach, and it is Broken Arrows.
That is correct. Broken Arrow.
And that is complete coincidence. I forget where I was. It was an island, and there were, anytime you go to like a beach house, there's those corny books. There's always like 4 or 5 corny books that were left behind or they're there. One of them was like an original Vince Flynn novel. I had nothing else to read. I grabbed it, and it just happened to be part of the story. It was like this Broken Arrows part. That's the only reason I know.
So I don't know if I need to explain this to you. Those corny books that are there, they're not for reading. They're just for decoration.
Listen, we're 1 for 1. The correct word you were looking for was thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Also, Broken Arrow, a 1996 John Travolta movie.
I was going to say that. I knew that when you said that, I knew it was a movie.
Also starring NFL Hall of Famer Howie Long as a bad guy. So,
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Howie Long of Villanova University.
So, all right, 1 for 1. Off to a good start here. We're going to go with a little bit of history. What environmental disaster happened on today's date in 2010? And I'll give you a hint if you would like it.
I also know this one because of a TV show. Do you have a guess, Mark?
Well, sure, I know it, but while you're on a roll, why don't you just keep going?
I could give the hint. Maybe I'll give the hint.
Yeah, give him the hint.
Here's the hint, Mark. It was turned into a movie by Mark Wahlberg. Starred in it in 2016.
Oh, that the boat thing in the Gulf.
Yes, Deepwater Horizon.
Yeah, that one.
That is correct. Good job, guys.
I know that one of my favorite shows on HBO was The Newsroom with Jeff Daniels. And in the opening episode, that is like the breaking thing that happens. So that was, again, coincidence that I just happened to know.
Hey,
nice.
2 for
Jeff,
2.
I'm going to go get a snack, and you just carry us through.
Don't count on it. Eventually, he's going to ask a question old enough for you, and I'll need you.
Oh, that's cool. That's real cool.
We're going to go with sports, more specifically fake sports on this next question.
Here we go, Mark.
I was shuffling through the TV guide last night, and I came across this new show on A&E. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's called WWE's Most Wanted Treasures. And it's kind of like American Pickers, except they send out these old professional wrestlers to find like their memorabilia that's been lost, and they buy it back.
Let me tell you what my new favorite show is.
It really is great. On the episode I watched, Mankind, I don't know if you remember him.
A little. Mick
Foley was out looking for one of his original Socko puppets. And I guess the WWE is putting together some kind of museum. I don't know. The whole show is ridiculous, but for somebody like me who grew up watching pro wrestling, Saturday night's main event, waking up on Sunday mornings and watching it, I mean, I was in love. So that got me to thinking. I did a little wrestling research. So your question for number 3 is, the first WrestleMania ever, Hulk Hogan teamed up with this guy in a tag team match against Rowdy Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff. Who was Hulk Hogan's teammate or tag team, teammate in that match?
I am not a fan of fake sports, so this one falls on the mark.
Yeah, and Jeff, I feel bad for you because you missed the heyday of pro wrestling. Mark and I, we grew up in the perfect time for pro wrestling.
Well, as Mark's thinking about it, it wasn't necessarily, there was this, I don't want to say disbelief. There was this idea though, like at the time, it wasn't just publicly known it was fake. Is that true?
Yeah, they've changed it. They hid it for a long time.
Okay. Which I'm sure would have changed it for me if I would have, but for me, it was hard to watch it knowing just none of it was real.
I'm going to see, was he with NWO then? Because if Hogan was with the New World Order then you're talking about Nash and Razor Ramon and I think there was a rumor that his brother in real life, which I think is wrong, but his brother was Brutus the Barber Beefcake, and he would have been about that time. He also did Hogan team up with the Macho Man back then? I'm going to say, just for lack of a better guess, and if this is right, then these questions are too hard. I'm going to say Brutus the Barber Beefcake.
You are incorrect. I believe Brutus the Barber Beefcake was Hulk Hogan's brother-in-law, but don't quote me on that.
Brother-in-law, okay.
So the first WrestleMania, this was not too long after Hulk Hogan starred in Rocky 2. No, Rocky 3.
He was Rocky 3. He was Thunderlips.
Right. And who else was in Rocky 3? His teammate, Mr. T. He teamed up with
Mr. T was WrestleMania 1?
The original WrestleMania, yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
We had one Facebook user know the answer.
Nice.
Kudos.
Well, no. We had thousands of Facebook users know the answer. And only one typed it out.
Only one comment. Yeah. All right. Well, you guys already talked about 420.
That was a good question. I give you that. All right.
420. You already talked about it a little bit today. So we're going to go with some cannabis history for the next question. What was the first U.S. state to legalize marijuana for recreational use? What was the first U.S. state to legalize marijuana for recreational use? They did it in 2010. Very progressive.
My immediate guess off the top of my head, this is just thinking out loud, my immediate guess is Colorado. Oregon, I know, is a very hippie-ish state. And then you get like, which one is Ben and Jerry's in? Vermont? Vermont's kind of hippie-ish too. The one that always comes to mind to me is Colorado. I don't have a better guess than that unless you do.
No, I think Colorado would have been my first guess. I think California would have been my second, but I would guess Colorado first.
All right, we're going to go with Colorado.
Well, Colorado?
Yeah.
Well, they were the second state to do it. They did it.
Now let me just cut you off. So that's close, and we're going to tell people that we got it right.
Right. Okay. But the correct answer would be Washington State.
Oh, I was right. Okay, I was right next to Oregon.
You were close.
I didn't realize. Well, the grunge. I didn't realize that Washington was more hippier than Oregon. That would have surprised me. But hey, we were close.
Wasn't Colorado the first in something though? To legal to sell it, something. Colorado. I feel like Colorado was way more in the news for it than Washington was.
I don't know the answer to that. Yeah.
Maybe in Colorado was the first place that Venmo accepted it as a form of.
You've never sounded younger.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm trying. I'm trying to get.
Venmo, by the way, greatest thing that ever happened to money. Love Venmo.
Yes.
You guys have the Venmo card?
No.
Yeah. No,
they ask me every time I open it, though.
Yeah. Get it. Perfect. Wonderful thing. Anyway.
Hey, let me call you back.
Last question. Mark,
Sorry,
you're right there. Mark, generally speaking, we don't use our phones.
It just kept ringing. I know during trivia, it kept ringing. I was like, hey, let me call you right now.
Now, see, if you did that at a real Quizzo event, somebody else would accuse you of cheating, probably. Like the table sitting next to you would have came up to me and complained, listen, that guy over there has been on his phone all night. He's definitely looking up answers.
Oh, no, let me correct you and tell you what really would have happened. Someone from across the room would have come running over and said that guy's on his phone. And then someone from the next table would have said he might be on his phone, but he's 0 for 4 on the question, so it doesn't really matter.
All I could picture was like Tony Kornheiser on PTI, like answering the phone real quick while Wilbon's speaking and then hanging up. Or like a contestant on Jeopardy.
I could see Kornheiser making a call while Wilbon. Couldn't you see? I could see Kornheiser making a call while Wilbon's speaking. Like, you're an idiot. So I'll have an intelligent conversation with someone else. All right, go ahead. Well, I got to get one today. I got to get one.
Last question. It could be in the movie category. Today's Crispin Glover's 57th birthday. He's best known as playing George McFly in the Back to the Future movies. All right. What was Doc Brown's dog's name in the Back to the Future? What was Doc Brown's dog's name in the Back to the Future movie?
I got one.
Go for it.
You don't have a guess?
I don't know.
Let me jump in here, John. Let me drag this out a little bit and give you a little history. You know why Jeff doesn't know this answer? Because this movie came out in the 80s.
Yes.
And Jeff thinks that there was never this is how unintelligent my partner is, even though he's got more answers correct than I have today. He thinks there were no good movies made in the 80s.
That's not, and here's the 15-second appeal. I believe that in the 80s, everything was first being created, but nothing was mastered yet. So like special effects, prosthetics, like all these things, all these new things people wanted to try in movies, and everyone's doing it, but no one really knew what they were doing. And I think the 80s came out more cheesy than polished. That's all.
Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of cheese to the 80s, but that's just what helped make it flavorful. And you take Back to the Future is one of the classics of it is timeless. It will never get old. Every time you watch it, you find something else. And next time you watch it, Jeff, you will find out that Dr. Brown's dog's name was Einstein.
That is correct.
There it is. 3 for 5 is not bad.
Not terrible. No.
It is not. Thank God you logged in, or I'd have been 1 for 5, and I'd be out of the lineup. Because 1 for 5 is not good.
Interesting. Back to the Future. Eric Stoltz was actually cast.
I knew that.
Yeah, as Marty McFly, and they filmed a ton of stuff with him too. You can actually find it on the internet. It's really weird to see somebody else other than Michael J. Fox in that role.
I was going to say they filmed for 6 weeks.
Yeah, lots of stuff on tape.
Interesting.
Did you ever hear this? I just read this. Henry Winkler and Tom Hanks didn't get along for like 30 years because, and I might be wrong with it's somebody was on a set and had a lot of cachet, more cachet than Henry Winkler, and legend is they had Henry Winkler fired. And that now after and they seem like the two nicest guys in Hollywood. But if one guy has you hey, he says you're off the movie, and he's a bigger name than you, so he's off. But if you know, obviously Henry Winkler knew Ron Howard very well because they were on Happy Days together, and Tom Hanks did Apollo 13 with Ron Howard, and I don't know what other movies he's done with Ron Howard. So apparently Ron Howard helped patch them up. But I think those are the two. But yeah, so it's funny of the people who were originally cast and bounced, or the people who were on and someone's like, I won't work with him, and they get thrown off. But I did know, I think Stoltz was there for 6 weeks or 2 months or something. And then, was it Zemeckis? Did Robert Zemeckis do? Whoever did it was like, this ain't working, and they brought in Michael J. Fox.
Yeah, you can find the whole parking lot scene, I think, on the internet, starring Eric Stoltz and not Michael J. Fox. So there's lots of stuff like that in the movies. Sylvester Stallone was originally cast as Axel Foley in Beverly Hills Cop, but he took it upon himself to rewrite the whole script, and the director and the writer were like, get out of here. Like, what are you doing? And that's how Eddie Murphy got the role. So
I'd also heard that is fascinating of things that people turn down. And I saw an interview once with Halle Berry. She was on Oprah, and Oprah asked her, she's like, we always hear these stories of Hollywood people that turn down roles. Is there one that you turned down? And Halle Berry said, I was offered Sandra Bullock's role in Speed. And that's really the movie that launched Sandra. Sandra Bullock wasn't big until Speed. And Jeff, have you seen Speed, or do you not know what we're talking about?
No, I've seen Speed.
Okay. And it was a great, because by this time Halle Berry was huge. She might have won an Academy Award. And Oprah's like, how did you turn down Speed? And Halle Berry goes, when I read the script, I figured I'd just be another black woman driving the bus. It was, it is funny, the things that get offered and the things that people turn down.
John, give us one more plug.
Yeah. All right. Again, we're at the Bullfrog tonight, Tuesday, 8:30 p.m. Tomorrow, we got Rusty Rail in Mifflinburg, Brickyard and Kimball's in Williamsport, and then Lewisburg Town Tavern on Thursday, starting back up after a little bit of a hiatus there as well. So, awesome. Yeah. And again, I'm always on Facebook. You can check me out, John Mackey's Quizzo on Facebook. Lots of stuff going on there. So,
all right. I don't mean to stereotype, but when I hear like Town Tavern, Lewisburg, right there by Bucknell, I'm thinking that is an intellectual trivia crowd.
There are a lot of good teams there. Yes, we've got quite a standard crowd. So, but you'd be surprised. You get a lot of the young college kids that come in. Well, but this is pre-COVID. Sit at the bar and they could care less about trivia. But yeah, it's a great place if you've ever been there. It's good food, nice people.
Because I was thinking of where Jeff and I want to show up, and we don't want to show up at like the 400 level class right away. We want to kind of start slow and work our way up.
I will say, when we went to the Bullfrog, there was always 2 or 3 teams there that was like it. You had to have near perfect rounds to really win it. So the Bullfrog's tough.
Well, I would say too, from the time I used to play at Buffalo Wild Wings, who was our sponsor last month when they used to, and it's just so much fun. And you'd be shocked. Like, I can't believe it's not only what you know, like the broken arrow answer, but how you know it is. Now, like, I knew the Back to the Future one because I've seen the movie about 15 times. And it's one of those movies for me, if you click by it, no matter what part you're at, you got to keep watching. But it is a blast. No matter how smart you are or whatever, there's always that one category that you know, and then there's always categories you have no idea. But you get a good group of people, and you can help, and you can have a lot of fun. Quizzo is a blast.
Yeah, thanks, John. Appreciate it.
All right. Good job, guys.
Thanks.
And we're going to tell people that didn't see the episode, we're going to edit this. And by like 8 o'clock tonight, we're going to be 5 for 5 again, no matter what
there you go.
say.
Thanks, John. We'll see you next week.
We'll see you guys. Have a good one.
5 for 5, baby. What was the other one you got? Broken Arrow. What was the second one?
Broken Arrow, and then I also got the what was the other one? The second one, the Deepwater Horizon.
Oh, Deepwater Horizon.
It was like the first or second episode of the Newsroom on HBO. Like, it was like the first breaking story they had to cover with Jeff Daniels, and I believe Dev Patel is in that as well. So,
have you ever seen the movie
Deepwater Horizon? Yes.
Yeah, it's a good movie. It's good play.
Yeah, it's exciting. I don't know how accurate it is, but it's exciting.
Accuracy. We're not looking for accuracy. We're looking for entertainment.
Hey, thank you guys for watching today. We hope you enjoyed Quizzo, and thank you to John. Also, thank you again to Weiss Markets. Thanks for being our title sponsor. And any other shout-outs before we leave, Mark?
No, I don't think so. The weather's going to be crummy for the next couple of days, so that means I'm going to stay in and study. And next week, I will try to do better than 1 for 5. Although I really liked my Brutus the Bart. You know what's funny? I'll bet my son would have known the WrestleMania. I'm going to ask him the WrestleMania 1 trivia question because he is like a wrestling historian. So I'm not sure I should be proud of that, but, you know, with YouTube and stuff, we've watched a lot of old matches.
Yeah, no, he may know it. I have a lot of friends who might have known the answer to that. Unfortunately, I'm not one of them. Thank you guys for watching. I'm Jeff Everett. He's Mark Messina. Thanks again to Weiss Markets, and thank you for watching the Midday Show at NorthcentralPA.com.